Special thank you to my patrons for helping make this video happen. We begin in West Boston around the turn of the 19th century at what once was the South End grounds, the old home of the Boston and Milwaukee and Atlanta Braves, and the site of what's now Northeastern University. Two schools are meeting on the gridiron today, Boston College and Holy Cross, having met
Wur-ster
a week prior. The Eagles are down 6-4, but late in the game they have a chance at a lead as fullback Hugh McGrath raced down the edge of the field. The ball carrier would be no match for his defender though, one Louis Sockalexis, tackling McGrath moments before finding pay dirt. A brawl would immediately break out between the two Massachusetts teams, lasting several minutes as officials struggled to regain control of the game. Unsure whether or not the referees called the play dead though, McGrath would pick up the unattended football as the fight raged on and waltz into the end zone to put his squad up 8-6. Holy Cross immediately would cry foul, and the officials would side with the Crusaders, telling them the Eagles, quote, refused to play, forfeiting the game with 3 minutes and change left on the clock. Holy Cross, believing themselves to have won, would leave the field as Boston College captain Joe Walsh protested, eventually convincing the officials to just let the game play out, albeit without McGrath's touchdown. When the referees went out to retrieve the Holy Cross players, however, the Crusaders refused to return, claiming the game was already called in their favor. All of this to set up one of the most absurd game-winning touchdowns in college football history, as the Boston College offense lined up against thin air to take the game 8-6. The Eagles would soon after leave the grounds believing themselves to be the victors, and to this day neither university agrees on who actually won that day in West Boston. That is how the Boston College Holy Cross rivalry began, an 84-game series that, for its duration, stood at the heart of football in the Northeast, and one that has since faded away, alongside the Northeastern football environment it embodied. The Holy Cross Crusaders, located in
Wur-ster
and the Boston College Eagles, located in Chestnut Hill, were natural rivals, both due to their proximity and their shared history as 1800s Jesuit institutions. It's a series that had come to encompass 127 years of history, one national champion, 3 All-Americans, 14 Hall of Famers, and many more notable figures, including one right here on the former South End grounds. The defender who tackled Hugh McGrath, Louis Sockalexis, would emerge throughout his playing days at Holy Cross as one of New England's most talented athletes. Nicknamed the Jim Thorpe of Mount St. James for both his athletic feats and his Native American heritage, Sockalexis would, following his playing days in
Wur-ster
be possibly the first Native American to sign with an MLB team, the old Cleveland Spiders, who would often be referred to as the Indians while Sockalexis was there. Years later, when another Cleveland franchise began shopping around for a nickname, they'd inherit the Indian moniker in reference to the old Holy Cross Crusader and his team. Soon after the rivalry began, it'd go into a brief hiatus when Boston College discontinued their football program due to safety concerns, returning to face Holy Cross in 1910, just to lose 5 years in a row. Boston College would soon recover though, going on their own 4-game winning streak, capped by their greatest season yet in 1920. They'd notch a perfect 8-0 record with wins over Georgetown, Yale, and Holy Cross, while shutting out all but 2 of their opponents en route to their first undefeated season. Led by Hall of Fame head coach Frank Cavanaugh, nicknamed the Iron Major from his service and near death in the First World War. He'd lead the Eagles into some of their first moments of national prominence, all while beginning yet another in-state rivalry. The Green Line rivalry between Boston College and Boston University, technically beginning in 1893, would begin regular play in 1920 with a 34-0 Eagle victory. Despite having its origins in football, the Green Line rivalry would never materialize into a competitive series like Boston College Holy Cross, in football at least, with the Eagles holding a 27-4-1 advantage all-time over the Terriers. The rivalry would materialize, instead, on the ice rink, with the 2 storied hockey programs beginning play in 1918. The 2 would eventually combine for 10 hockey national titles, including 1 Green Line national title game in 1978. 50 Frozen Four appearances and is widely considered among college hockey's greatest rivalries. In the realm of college football, though, the crosstown rivalry would take a backseat to Boston College Holy Cross. The era would also see the closing of the South End grounds, and both rivalries moved to Boston's other baseball stadiums, namely Fenway and Braves Field. It was a testament to how big this rivalry was for the people of both Massachusetts and New England as a whole, a draw that only grew as Boston College and Holy Cross entered their glory years. It began with the 1937 Holy Cross Crusaders, going undefeated for the first time in program history with wins over Georgia, Brown, and Georgetown, along with a 20-0 blanking of the Boston College Eagles, who were reeling from a loss to Boston the week prior. Leading the Crusaders were a pair of future Hall of Famers, head coach Eddie Anderson, who'd later become a legendary head coach at Iowa, and halfback Bullet Bill Osmanski. Holy Cross's only retired number, Osmanski's career in
wur-ster
would earn him a number of All-American nods as well as a first-round selection by the Chicago Bears. He'd go on to have a fruitful NFL career, winning 6 NFL titles, including the 1940 NFL Championship, which stands to this day as the most lopsided blowout in NFL history. Boston College would soon strike back with 2 super teams of their own in 1940 and 1942, beginning with their 1940 Team of Destiny. The Eagles would host 5 future Hall of Fame players, a Hall of Fame head coach, and 2 eventual All-Americans. It was by far the most talented roster Boston College had ever employed, and it would show on the field of play. 10-0 in the regular season, outscoring opponents 320-52, and recording 6 shutouts en route to the biggest game in Boston College history, the 1941 Sugar Bowl against the 10-0 Tennessee Volunteers, in a 19-13 victory. Through their, quote, indomitable spirit, the Eagles would close out one of the most memorable Cinderella runs of this era of college football to finish 11-0, claiming their first national title in the process. It would not be long before Boston College found themselves in a position to win their second. They'd run it back a couple years later with many of the same players, and they'd come out just as dominant. 33-0 against West Virginia, 14-7 against Clemson, and a 7-6 victory over the North Carolina Pre-Flight School, a temporary military team that finished number 4 in the final AP poll. Just as the Eagles effortlessly walked through their schedule, Holy Cross would find themselves in a down year, entering their game with Boston College as 21-point underdogs, with no chance in hell at taking down their number 1 rivals. It was predestined to be a blowout. Well, it was a blowout, a 55-12 domination at the hands of the Holy Cross Crusaders. In one of college football's most shocking upsets, the 21-point underdogs at
wur-ster
would not only beat their top-ranked rivals, but blow them out by 41 points. To this day, the largest defeat any AP number 1 team has ever taken. To make the situation even more unbelievable, the loss would inadvertently save the life of the entire 1942 Eagles team. Before the game, assuming it to have already been won, Boston College would book a party at the Coconut Grove, a popular nightclub in downtown Boston, a party they never ended up attending because they lost. That same night, a fire would engulf the club, and nearly half of the 1,000 people within it would die. A death toll that very well could have included much of the 42 Eagles had they won. Through divine intervention, Holy Cross had saved their arch rivals. They would eventually be rewarded for their inadvertent act of good in 1945, making their first ever bowl game off an 8-1 regular season record and a dominant 46-0 win over the Eagles. They'd go on to face Miami in the Orange Bowl, where the local Hurricanes would win on a walk-off pick 6. After 1945, the programs in Massachusetts would begin to cool off from their early 40s high, returning to their positions as regional powers across the late 40s and 50s. The most notable game of this era would be nothing short of a bloodbath. In 1949 on Braves Field, Boston College would beat Holy Cross 76-0, the largest margin of victory in both the Boston College Holy Cross and Boston College Boston rivalries. Shortly after, a trophy would be introduced to celebrate Boston College's rivalries with both Holy Cross and Boston, the Sacred Cod Trophy. The name gets its origins from this guy right here, a 4'11" wooden depiction of an Atlantic cod that currently hangs above the Massachusetts State Building. Symbolic of the economic, dietary, and cultural importance of the fish to the state of Massachusetts, there was no better symbol to embody the state's most important three-way rivalry. The trophy series would last from 1954 to 1962, with Boston College taking it home 3 times, Holy Cross taking it twice, and Boston never laying hands upon the cod-adorned cup. The brief series would come to an end when the Green Line football rivalry did, when a 1963 game would be canceled due to the assassination of John F. Kennedy. They would never schedule another game, leaving the rivalry to wither and die on the field, just for it to blossom on the rink. The death of Boston College Boston would foreshadow the eventual death of Boston College Holy Cross. Just like Princeton Rutgers, the two arch-rivals would find themselves taking divergent paths throughout the 60s, 70s, and 80s. Holy Cross would continue primarily scheduling the Ivies and small New England schools it always had, while Boston College began to schedule, and beat, a number of college football's largest brands. The Eagles wanted out of New England, a path the Crusaders, with their comparatively limited resources, simply could not follow. The divergence would play out on the field as well, with the once competitive rivalry shifting in the Eagles' favor, winning 9 in a row before Holy Cross took 2 games in 1977 and 1978. It would be the last games Holy Cross would ever win against Boston College. In 1981, the NCAA would vote to move the Ivy League and Holy Cross down to Division I AA, leaving Boston College as the final Massachusetts team left playing at the highest level of college football. The series would go on for a little bit after, with the Eagles winning every single game after 81 in blowout fashion, before the series finally came to an end in 1986. The two programs would find plenty of success on their separate paths. Holy Cross would dominate their new subdivision, coming out of the decades with 3 separate seasons where they'd win 10 or more games. Boston College saw a renaissance of their own in the 80s, climbing as high as 4th in the AP poll in '84 on the back of their first Heisman, Doug Flutie, riding that wave of momentum into the Big East and eventually the ACC. For years, though, Boston College Holy Cross could not resume play due to Holy Cross and their conference's elimination of scholarships, since a win over the scholarship-less Crusaders wouldn't count towards bowl eligibility for the Eagles. It's a status quo that exists for nearly 30 years, finally ending in 2013 when the Patriot League reinstituted football scholarships, allowing the Crusaders to once again schedule FBS opponents, finally renewing the series with Boston College in 2018. The rivalry was different now, one more for the donors and older alumni of both schools than anyone else. The frenzy that once caused mid-game brawls at the South End grounds was replaced with nostalgia for New England's biggest rivalry, one now skewed irreversibly in Boston College's favor. The Eagles would win 62-14, nothing more than a standard FCS tune-up game before their ACC slate. It was obvious the rivalry would never be competitive again. Except, for the briefest of moments, it was.
Ball comes out, and Holy Cross recovers. He's great at those contested catches. Here comes some pressure on Sluka. Gets away with it, has some space, and Matthew Sluka gains a first down. Sluka over the middle, it's complete, first down.
Boston College would end up winning 31-28, but it was hard fought. It was more reminiscent of the 40s and the 80s. It was, for a moment, a rivalry. Holy Cross does not have the Eagles on their schedule for the foreseeable future, but if I had to take a bet, these two will meet again. And, just maybe, they'll get this close once more. After all, crazier things have happened. I'd like to, again, thank my patrons. Aura, Jack Hageman, Shane Bailey, Mantis Toboggan, Captain Coey, The King of War 541, William L. Jagnow, Aiden Wong, Yeah Avenue, Ryan Liu, Authentic Sims, Max Kern, Joe Sports 2022, Lance Justice, Class Jackson Lawsuit, Hopper, October Resto 2, Justin Pedraza, Cole, Nick Knudsen, Lurker, Trash Can Gus, Ease.L, Spicy Bape, The Erupturatan, Adrian Genge, Deatheros, Sean McWilliams, CC, The Hidden Source, Bradley Moore, at Signwood, Scarface 1, Mega Doomer, Philip, and Crosley Jones. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see y'all in the next video.